Welcome to the Lovecars on the Grid podcast, your global motorsport roundup with me, Tiff, Needell and Paul Woodman.
Welcome to Lovecars on the Grid, where we look back at a weekend absolutely packed with motorsport action. Singapore, of course, MotoGP, absolutely, BTCC and BGT finales, yes, and BSB, you can't miss it. And occasionally we also get some drama in NASCAR, and it was definitely this weekend as well. But Singapore, kind of a bit of a bore fest, but there's plenty of action, plenty of talking points, that's for sure.
I know it was a snore fest again, and I'm so annoyed still about the regulations, and it's still, when qualifying, they're so close. You keep on thinking, oh gosh, it's going to be such good racing, but they still can't follow close enough. And what it was when George was coming up to lap Stroll, he was saying, I can't get close enough. He's on worn tyres, and he got within 1.5 seconds or something. And bizarrely, because the blue flags come out after 1.2 seconds. Once you're within 1.2, everyone knows that the tough area is 1.5 down to 1, so you hardly ever get DRS unless you really push. And so these stupid regulations, the ground effect, everyone raved about, and they haven't got people following close enough. And it's really, and we're signing up contracts, multi-years for Monaco and Singapore and Madrid, which hasn't even had a race yet, and these circuits where there will be no overtaking. Now, I defend Monaco because it's Monaco. You can have one of those a year, so go to Monaco, so it's great. But it's just that the race enthusiast is losing Formula One, and you get more and more people saying this is the last year I'm watching, and massive crowds at Singapore, cash, ching, 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 the bean counters. And you see the start nowadays, you see a shot of the grandstand, there's like 99% have all got their phones up, filming the moments on Monday morning. I was there, look, I was there. Yeah, but what did you do for the 2 hours between filming the start and filming the podium at the end? You see some of the grandstands as well, set way back from the track, huge grandstands, and they just see a little bit of cars going by. It's bizarre that the amount of money people pay to go to what is just an occasion and not a motor race.
You're right, it is an occasion. I think it was more noticeable in Singapore than any other race of this season so far, about the following close behind, because of the way the wind is and because of the street circuit. But really, really made it a very, very boring race. But like you said, the qualifying was electric again. It was so close, and anybody could have got it if they put together that final last lap. But
George did it. George had an immaculate weekend, doing a Verstappen almost. And
Triple Crown? Did he get the Triple Crown? Is that what they call it? Where he?
I'm bored with that. Someone noticed. I always thought the Triple Crown was just
fastest lap. Fastest lap is the third thing. No, I think that was Lewis.
Because someone used the word Triple Crown for a Max thing. Max said more Triple Crown. So I said, well, the Triple Crown is Le Mans, Indy 500, and Monaco. And I was told, no, it's not. It's pole fastest. I never even knew about those Triple Crowns.
You're right about the Triple Crown. You're absolutely right. That's what a Triple Crown is. Incidentally, Jenson Button, jumping around all over the place here, listeners and viewers. Jenson Button said he's not interested in Indy 500. I find that really odd for a driver like that.
Yeah, chicken. They don't like the walls. Some of them Formula One drivers don't like high-speed walls. So no, it was a right old snore fest. No safety cars. Everyone finished.
I know. How about that? No safety cars.
So I reckon the two highlights, the whole race, were the first corner with Liam and Lando, and the last lap with Lewis and Fernando. I think those are the two highlights.
Oscar and Lando, talk us through
it. Well, it was completely a great overtaking move. I mean, the problem was that Max slowed more than Lando wanted. That's what caused the clash, was the fact that Max was in the way, so he touched the Max and had to move away from the back of Max. On a perfect world, he could have punctured Max's tyre and put Oscar in the wall and come through in second place and gone on to gain 20 points on Oscar. I think Oscar should be lucky. He wasn't in the wall, And then I love all the rain. Well, what are you going to do about that? What about rules? What about, Papaya? What about, are you going to make him overtake? Are you going to let him overtake me? It's bizarre how they can talk like that as well in excitement of starting a
Yeah, but you
Grand
can,
Prix round of
Tiff. So you say that. You can
not
as
not
well.
not for the
Yes,
Grand
you
Prix car
can.
going round. I couldn't when I was on the radio. I was always a bit slower. But it's funny. You see, I loved his voice. Though he was so dispirited, wasn't he?
He was. It was. It wasn't like him. You sort of, for the first time, you heard him
Uh,
a bit of a chink in his armor, really.
well,
But
yeah,
I
he
look.
was
I
a bit.
think from my side, absolutely, it was a racing. It was a good
Yeah,
overtake. He definitely had the run on him.
yeah.
Good overtake, and Oscar was being a little bit bloody minded, trying to hold the line. No problem at all. So no problem at all there. But I guess my argument, my point is that if it was the other way around, oh my goodness, it's a bit like the Max effect, where Max used to want everybody to look at, he's the only driver, and Lando would have been exactly the same.
Uh, uh,
He would have been on the radio. He's got to give it back, and he would have been sulking, and so he's a proper little
oh,
sulker when it doesn't go his way.
yeah. They're all like that now. They're all like that. But the fact that that's because they know the race is over. Pretty much. When they've lost the first corner, that's when they're so depressed because they know that's the end of it all. When qualifying had been so exciting, hadn't it? The main qualifying story is probably Liam Lawson smacking the wall twice, just when he's trying to get his up with Red Bull, and then in Q2 he was out in Q2, half a second behind Hadjar. Ollie Behrman had a fantastic, quiet weekend, but brilliant weekend. It's his first time round Singapore and qualified ninth and finished ninth. Of course, the other big story was the Williams cars both getting disqualified for having their, oh, God knows, the DRS gap was a few millimetres excessive, and they were both thrown out and put to the back of the grid. But apart from that, Ferrari's not quite on the pace, which is always frustrating and annoying. Of course, Lewis closer to Leclerc, was ahead of Leclerc, was in qualifying.
No, I think he just got pipped at the end, didn't he, in qualifying? But very close.
But no, it was a bit of a snooze fest.
Well, I think the radios were the only exciting thing. You had Alonso, which you don't do that, telling his engineer that he's going to disconnect him if he keeps talking. Hadjar went back to a little bit of his normal bit angry with the engineers.
Bloody engine. What's wrong with my bloody engine?
I just don't like it. I know it's the heat of the moment, and then Alonso clearly was annoyed with Hadjar as well. Said, "Oh, well done. He's the hero of the race because he wouldn't let him pass. He was racing him." But
mind you, I wasn't that bored of the Grand Prix because I did a classic Sky Sports. Have you got the Sky package? So I watched the first 10 laps of the Grand Prix live. I thought, right, that's boring. Race is done. So I then swapped over to my recording of the British Touring Car Championship, watched a race of the British Touring Car Championship with a bit of fast forward in the middle, went back to the Grand Prix, lap 20, watched 5 laps of the Grand Prix. Yeah, that's boring. Switched off and went to the Superbikes at Oulton Park and watched a bit of Oulton Park Superbikes. And then went back to the touring cars and catch up with another 10 minutes of touring car racing. And then back to the Grand Prix by the time we got back to lap 30. Fast forward. Oh, dear. It's a bit sad, really. But it's the only way to watch all these, to check out for you kind viewers and listeners, what was the best entertainment. But I don't know
what about the pit stop and Lando making the Lando being the engineer telling him, no, I got to pit first. But the lead car
that was quite nice.
Tips.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, would you allow him to pit for you? No, fucking why would I?
Well, he said yes, and he said no, and then he just realised what he said.
Yes, no, or maybe yes. I understand them. I'd say another thing that's getting a bit weirdo in Formula One is they banned grid girls. I mean, the grid girls love being grid girls, and it's all sexist and all that sort of stuff. It's a bit creepy. Like they're all zooming in now on the girlfriends. They're almost searching in the pits for the girlfriends or partners.
It's a bit weird.
Yeah, you've got the very attractive model of Lando zoom in on her little lovely eyes, and straight when Lawson was in the wall, it was filming Lawson's girlfriend, looking a bit worried. Oh gosh, Natalie, what's Liam done? It's funny you said
that because I was writing that down as a note, and I thought I'm not going to mention that because it was almost a bit cringe. It's like
creepy,
the girlfriend of Alex Albon, professional golfer, and girlfriend of Alex Albon. Well, it's like this is so weird. It really was a bit cringe. Oh, then that's right. And then Crofty said, which is the cringiest thing about it. Crofty said, "Oh, it's so amazing to have them here." And he said the same about Lance Stroll's sister. He said, "It's amazing to have Chloe Stroll and her family in the paddock today." Why? What's that got to do with racing, mate?
I know that's all a bit, well, because they know it's bloody boring. They've got no grid girls, so they can only zoom in on attractive.
But they didn't zoom in on Chloe Stroll. It just Crofty made a point of saying it was it's amazing to have Chloe Stroll here today. The whole family supporting Lance. Chloe with her husband and her baby. It's like, what? This is so weird.
Imagine football. If football started zooming in on all the wags, in the grandstands and picking them out and naming them, especially when the husband or the boyfriend's had something bad happen.
Yeah, exactly. So the conspiracy theory is that because Lando had a slow pit stop a few weeks ago, that they should have swapped positions. That's the conspiracy theory on the internet, which of course they shouldn't. Of course they shouldn't. McLaren did nothing wrong. They've obviously got a favourite, in my opinion. Zach's golden boy is Lando, but so what? It is what it is. Get over it. Deal with it.
Roll on to the next. Roll on to the next one.
You'll soon silence them if you keep winning races, Oscar, and you win the championship.
We're going next. So USA, we're going next. So that's overtaking USA. That's a good track. Except it's got the problem that there's amazing all the drivers love it. Turns 1 to 9 in the Cota. Fantastic, but you can't follow. So you come down to the hairpin that begins the long straight where you do get DRS. But you can't get out of the hairpin under 0.6 behind because you can't follow close enough. So you use all your DRS around that huge long straight, and very rarely, even though it's a huge long straight, do they ever get past because they've had to start the straight so far behind because they can't follow. And the same coming down to the other DRS on the start-finish straight.
Let's reserve judgment until Sunday, and let's see.
Well, I think
go on, Tiff.
They need to increase the DRS to 2 seconds and increase the length of the DRS. Then they'd be flying past. But then we'd all complain because it's too easy to overtake. You can't win.
So one thing that we haven't mentioned, because it has been boring and it was a done deal about half a season ago, but McLaren won the Constructors' Championship second year in a row.
Huge congratulations.
Oscar was conspicuous in his absence because he didn't go and join them.
But he was elsewhere. Apparently, he had to be in the pen.
Exactly. So you can always read a story. You can always read more into these sort of things. But
driver places have warmed up. The Red Bull Yuki or Liam or someone else for next year.
Well, Alex
warmed
Dunn.
Up. Well, yes, later, but it's bizarre because Yuki's nice but slow. And Liam's got a bit crashy and gobby. He's a bit cocky and crashy. But then you have to remind everybody. But of course, Yuki was quicker than Liam last year. I know it was Liam's debut, but
that reminds me when you say nice but slow. Remember nice but dim, Tim, nice but dim, the old Harry Enfield one.
Yeah. But of course, it's always Arvin Lindblad, who I think is too. I'm not sure he's quite ready. I keep on saying this every time because he's about 7th in the F2 Championship now. Hugely talented, but maybe too much too soon. So now, as you say, Alex Dunn has suddenly leapt into the limelight. But he's had some. He was leading the Formula 2 Championship. He's very aggressive driving, which everybody says Red Bull like that. So he's pulled himself out of his attachment to McLaren because they probably said, "Well, I'm afraid, Alex, we've got our Grand Prix drivers for the next 5 years signed up, probably." So McLaren have let him go, and now Red Bull are saying there is Alex Dunn. I would go to Luke Browning ahead of both of those in my personal choice of taking a British, not that Alex is British, he's Irish, a homegrown talent. And then, of course, nobody's talking about Leonardo Fornaroli. So Fornaroli won last year's Formula 3 Championship. He's leading the Formula 2 Championship, and he's not getting mentioned anywhere. And Alpine, old Briatore is still saying it's either Colapinto or Paul Aaron. I'm talking about blinkers on for maybe financial reasons of Mr. Colapinto's money. Briatore's
South America, yeah.
But I mean, I'd put all of Lindblad, Dunn, Browning, and Fornaroli ahead of both Colapinto and Paul Aaron. So strange things going on. Who's going to go where and what for the 4 seats, or 3 seats, or 2 seats? Who knows how many seats? People are saying Dunn and Lindblad in Racing Bulls, which would be fun. I'd go for that.
That'd be good, wouldn't it? That'd be exciting.
Yeah.
So hang on. So you think Lawson's going to be going?
Well, I feel so. I don't know after that weekend. Well, it depends now.
Hadjar would be going up to the main Red Bull, right?
Yes. And then
so we've got I think that's
two Racing
pretty
Bulls.
much a given.
Yeah, 2 Racing. But the trouble with the Racing Bulls is because there's new regulations, for once, I'm sort of thinking keep an experienced driver. Maybe you might need, although I don't usually go for that stupid twist, really, because I'm a young talent. I mean, when you put Max Verstappen and he was a rookie and he was straight at the front, Lewis Hamilton, rookie. So if they're talented, it doesn't matter. These stupid new regulations that might be great, but I haven't got much confidence in them at all. The FIA, there's a new lady, I forgot the name, come in to put a name in the hat to be Formula One president. FIA president. I don't think she's going to get there because I don't think anyone can outdo. I know, because he's got so many countries tied up with his grants and
that massive nation, the continent with about 80 different countries. Obviously, he's really well known in motorsport. Africa
has got 300 votes.
Yeah, he's got every single vote there. So. Yeah,
actually, it's funny.
Other than Kyalami, name me a couple of tracks in Africa. The whole of Africa.
No, there's only South Africa, Killarney.
I just said Kyalami, yeah.
No, there's Killarney and Kyalami.
Okay. I didn't know that. Okay.
I've raced at both. There's another track somewhere, Jortskop, I think. Jortskop near.
That's South Africa as well.
Track. Oh, it's all South Africa.
Maybe in mainland Africa, a track.
There must have been one in Zimbabwe, in Kenya. There must have been one. But no, I can't name any. So that's it.
And they've got such a massive part. I don't know what the percentage is, but I wouldn't mind hazarding a guess. It's probably about 40%, maybe 45%.
Of the votes, yeah, because there's so many countries.
Ludicrous.
Actually, it's quite interesting looking ahead if I live that long. Because 2031 or 2030. Of
course you'll bloody live that long. Don't say stupid.
Well, it seems like so far away. So the new regulations, so say Ben can't get his V8s or his V10s, which we all want, but the manufacturers don't. So the new regulations do survive until 2030. That is the year that Ben loses his presidency and Liberty lose their contract. So the moment, because the FIA, which I only read this, I didn't really realise that, they've actually handed the regulations completely to Formula One, F1 Dom, whatever they are, F1 Dom. So he can't impose any regulations because the whole contract is handed over to Liberty. But now in 2030, Liberty and the FIA have to renegotiate such a contract. So it's all going to be very interesting in 2030.
So hang on. So they've committed to tracks like Las Vegas and Madrid, and they're not even going to. So beyond their own tenure,
that's true. Committed, they have, haven't they? Yeah, they've committed contracts beyond their Monaco and places.
And what's I can't do names now. Brazilian lost in 2008 to Lewis Hamilton by 1 point.
Felipe Massa.
Yeah, so he's taking F1 62 million high court. I think it starts this week. Oh mate, just drop it. It's gutting. I get it, but it's loss of earnings and.
Oh no, he would have been world champion that year for sure.
Yeah, but it doesn't work that way because you when you only got to do a certain amount, and you can sometimes. Well, I don't need to overtake this car in fourth place. I can just stay in third place. Or I can stay in fifth place because I've got enough points. So it doesn't work that way. But anyway, good luck, Felipe, with you.
The Formula One Academy girls put on some good racing. I watched their both.
Glad you said that.
And, it was just three of them, really. I mean, the first race, which was a fantastic story, and I loved it, was a Leah Block won the reverse grid. I'm sorry, Leah. Sorry. Yes, you go down as a win on your CV, but you qualified 8th fastest. But it's a lovely story because obviously you'll remember the Block with his fantastic videos, and sadly taken too soon from us, and we lost some wonderful videos. But yeah, Leah. I mean, the funny thing is, showing how hard it is to overtake, because the quick girls caught her towards the end, but she held on, she kept the pace up, didn't make a single mistake, drove her great to the finish line. But the actual main event was a fantastic battle between the two championship battlers, Maya Wug, Wei, I think it is, and Dorian Pan. And these two battled it, and it started raining halfway through the race. So, I mean, they're not that experienced, so they're all on slicks. Half the backfield went in and changed to wets, but the front three stayed out and had this brilliant battle. And Wei took the lead on the last lap up the inside of Pau to take the win and close the champions. There's only one round to go now, and she's now only about 9 points behind Pau. But the great thing for us, there was this Welsh girl, Ella Lloyd, who we've mentioned a couple of times already, and she was right with these two very experienced drivers. And I love the fact, love the fact that Ella never did any kart racing. Oh, if you don't go karting at age 6, you've got no chance of your son ever being, or your daughter being a world champion. You have to start karting at 8 or 9. You don't. If you've got an inbred talent of driving car and balance and all the physical attributes. I mean, she did show jumping and she did, what else did she do?
She's a very good sports
skiing.
person.
She was good at. She's a really good all-round sports person. She's literally had 2 years in Ginettas, and now she's in her second year of single-seaters, and she's right on the back of, Way, as she said, Ella, the Austrian-Spanish, she's got about 3 nationalities, Belgian, Austrian, Spanish girl. She had 8 years of karting. She did win one little mini title, but she's never in the top 10 or 15 of championships, all her karting, 8 years. She's done 5 years in single-seaters, never in the top 10 anywhere. So now, after 8 plus 13 years of racing, she is a front Formula One Academy driver, but a very inexperienced Ella Lloyd is on their gearboxes.
I don't think you clocked it, but did you see who was racing and did incredibly well in their debut? I don't think you clocked it.
There was a French girl, Bissard.
Megan Bruce. Megan Bruce.
Oh.
Do you know who Megan Bruce is?
No, which must be
Caterham, remember?
Oh, your Caterham girl.
I know. How amazing is that? She stood in for. She was in the tag Heuer team. That
right.
A girl was injured, I think. So so for her first ever F1 Academy race, standing in Singapore street circuit, quite tricky, and she finished 12th in the first race, 13th in the second race. So she did incredibly well. I did beat her at Silverstone, by the way, just so you know. And I hadn't raced for 2 years, but just sorry, Megan. No, she did incredibly well. So proud of her, because you imagine that. Imagine going to first ever race like that in front of everybody, Grand Prix circuit. Wow, mega.
Anyway, so Ella, Way and Pound go to Las Vegas for a final shootout. They can't do it again next year. You did 2 years in Formula Academy, whereas Ella Lloyd can do it next year. So she'll be a surefire favourite for next year in the F1 Academy. Yes, that was it. But that's
a lot of Grand Prix talk. We better crack on. So
MotoGP, quite short and long side. So the main tour was Indonesia, really hot. I mean, the Formula One drivers complaining about heat in Singapore. Boy, it was absolutely baking in Indonesia. It was really about Marco Bezzecchi. The whole thing was about Marco Bezzecchi with this Aprilia. He's been faster and faster. I'm sure he won a sprint race, maybe a Grand Prix before. I should look back, but I haven't looked back. And he was on pole by miles. He was absolutely dominating this circuit. But on both the sprint and the Grand Prix, he made terrible starts and dropped back to 6th or 7th. And in the sprint race, he came all the way through the pack and got to the front and won the sprint race. Start of the Grand Prix, same terrible start, dropped to about 8th, was behind Marc Marquez, champion now, who's had a bad weekend. Ducatis weren't that fast. And he just took him out, so we all read the headlines. And it was a really fast right-hand corner. And I think Bezzecchi was so quick through that corner. The Aprilia was so fast through the quick corners. He just didn't think how slow Marquez would be on that opening lap. And he was just committed to following Marquez, I think. Yeah. And all of a sudden, flipping hell, and he stood it up to try to miss, but I couldn't miss the back of Marquez. They both had this big, really high-speed tumble, and Mark, of course, has broken his collarbone. So instead of going to Australia, it was about 4 more rounds. He was going to have Tour of the World, celebrating his championship.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Instead, he's had...
Isn't it funny? Lucky did it. Lucky he did it. Where Misano, wherever it was.
One more race earlier, and he might have lost the championship.
Yeah.
So even today, he's probably on the operating theatre in Madrid, I think, having yet another operation. These biker boys. And, I bet he'll have a target. If it's just a collarbone, he will want to be. When's the last round in Spain? MotoGP column. Valencia, November the 16th. I bet he'll be there. He'll be on a bike with his shoulder strapped up. There's still
they are made of different stuff, these boys.
Yeah. So Bezzecchi was the story.
Then
the Grand
you heard lots of stories. Sorry, Tiff, lots of stories back in the day, your day. People cutting off their toes or their race boots, and
Yeah,
of course, the famous one, Nicky Lauda bandaging up
yeah.
his
Keep going.
horrible burns, and so yeah. So I guess
Sports.
young
Yeah.
adrenaline.
Not that Mark's so young anymore, but even so. But it was great to the Grand Prix because firmly now this 20-year-old Spanish boy who's very highly rated, a rookie, won in his Gresini Ducati, satellite Ducati, walked away with it. Fantastic. Well, he was second on the grid, I think. Of course, he's teammate to Alex Marquez, who's done quite a bit of winning in the early part of the season. Well, not winning, following brother Mark.
Lots of second
Um,
places.
And he actually got second in the sprint. He had bad qualifying, Alex Marquez, but he got through, I think, to second in the sprint and second in the Grand Prix. No, he didn't. Pedro Costa was second in the Grand Prix. Alex Marquez was third. So Pedro Costa had a good run in KTM. So two names for the future, Aldeguer and Acosta, will be leading and battling for Grand Prix wins in many years to come. To really finish off Ducati's weekend with Marc Marquez in hospital, Pecco Bagnaia, that had this amazing comeback. Where was the last round? Completely dominated sprint race and everything else in Japan. Yeah, Montegi, wasn't it? Was right at the back again. I mean, having been completely useless right up to one Grand Prix after testing, I've sorted out the bike now. I know the problem. I'm now on pole. I'm winning sprints. I'm winning the Grand Prix in Japan. Came to Indonesia. He was last in the sprint race. Last. The Formula Super World.
But he must have had a problem.
Well, then he was running last in the Grand Prix, and he had the most. Normally you see that when the front folds as they're turning, they're still on the brake, bleeding off the front brake, and they just keep too much brake on a bit too soon, and the front just goes. This was like halfway at the apex, both front and rear, where it just fell over under him. The most bizarre looking crash. So quite strange. Ducati weren't on the pace, the factory Ducati wasn't. Moto2, the Brazilian Diego Moreira won it. He's closing the gap in the championship now to the Spanish championship leader, Manu Gonzalez. In fact, the I can't remember GP3, the Moto3 title was wrapped up the weekend when Jose Antonio Rueda won. So we've got Spanish MotoGP champion already. Moto3 champion, Spanish. Manuel Gonzalez, Spanish, has still got quite a large championship lead over this Brazilian kid. So we're all hoping the Brazilian will stop the Spanish whitewash.
I don't mind. They put so much into it. They got the perfect setup. So why shouldn't they be successful? So good for them.
There's too many of them. Kick a few out. Jake Dixon had 10th place. Already Brits, really, and the two Brits in Moto3. I've given up on.
He's been so hot and cold. He started so well at the beginning of the season. But he's so hot and cold. He's his biggest critique of himself, really. He gives himself a very hard time, much worse than Lando does.
Well, some great race. It was a good little track, actually, apart from the heat and it was good stuff.
Do they wear cooling vests under their leathers?
No, I don't think so. No. You have to wire yourself into something. They never said after the race, did they? Who did use them and who didn't? I'm intrigued to know. I'm all with Max. Again, Max, once again.
He's brilliant.
We're suspicious of Max on track sometimes, but he said, it should be a driver's choice. I don't like the wires. And also, he's very clever. And an important thing is if it stops working, you're worse off, if it breaks. So it has to be a choice.
Heat up like a radiator.
This year, they say you can wear it or carry 5 kilograms of lead. Well, that should be a choice. But they're talking about enforcing it next year. Oh, God, can't stand it. They still allow balaclava to have an open face. I still go mental about that. You see the touring car boys, they cut the visors so they can have the visor down with their sponsors on it, but they've cut off the bottom half. So the whole face is completely pink and open. And the regulation balaclava's size, as I discovered, is that shape. I had a new one and said, well, it doesn't cover my nose. I want a small window. No, the FIA recommended balaclava is that shape. So everything is covered in layers of fireproof material, and your whole little pink face is there to be burnt to pieces. It's just mental. The things they make happen. hands devices that you might not want to use. This has to be left to choice.
You can't buy common sense. That's the problem in this world of ours. Right, let's go to Brands Hatch.
Well, yeah,
and
talking of all their drivers with all their helmet, all their income, I think, is from helmet sponsorship. The amount of sponsors you see on the visors and all around the other side. It was all a bit of we all knew it was going to happen, really. But Tom Ingram when he won race 2 and took the championship.
Anything can happen. You could race 1, you get a puncture, start at the back. Anything can happen.
Tom's too clever.
He's clever. He's a clever boy, actually.
Yeah, quick. So he won race 2 to claim the crown. Ash Sutton ended up second in the championship. Dan Camish got 3rd place in the championship, ahead of Jake Hill. Dan Camish won. He won the first race because Ingram actually started on the harder tyre in race 1, chose to do that, so he'd have the better tyre for race 2 and 3. And Jake Hill, of course, is retiring. It's Jake's last. I bet he was so wanted to win. Brands Hatch is his home circuit.
Yeah, exactly. He won the championship there last year, of course.
He got up to 2nd place in the reverse grid race, but ended up 3rd in the reverse grid, which was won by Josh Cook in a Toyota, I think he was in. What's Josh driving? Anyway, all the usual action, lots of excitement, good racing, and Tom, a very deserved champion.
Who would have won if it was Tom and Ash in the same car?
Oh, they can't say that. No idea. They're so good. All times, Ash is sort of the wild child, doesn't he? He goes from amazing,
very aggressive.
Whereas Tom just seems to be super smooth, super clean, and yet aggressive in a cleaner way. He doesn't do any. He's very deceptive how neatly he passes, with lunges.
Put it this way: I don't know who would win. I've got my suspicions, but I know whose garage mechanic I'd prefer to be, and that'd be Tom's, because I think every single race Ash just comes back with bits hanging off all over the place, bumpers and all sorts.
So sorry for DeLeon, this 21-year-old kid that got pole, ran one of the greatest drivers circuits, and his engine blew on the warming up lap.
Oh, I know, poor lad.
So he didn't have such a good weekend, but yeah, lots of entertainment. It's always great stuff. Good afternoon to watch. But it does need it. It's got another support race, another thing for kids, another sort of junior-looking mini GT car. You remember they had one about 2 years ago, didn't they? And it all fell through for some reason. It was supposed to be to try and replace, because they haven't got Ginetta Juniors, because Ginetta stopped wanting to pay Alan Gow enough money to join his club. Which is quite. That's the trouble with those support races. They have to bring sponsorship, and, which is a shame. I'd like more one-off. They have for a year, about 5 or 6 years ago. They always have a different third race, the extra race.
Well, they've had Mini, they've had Caterham, they've had Ginetta.
Yeah, but I think now you have to pay to join the club. If you weren't down at Brands Hatch, you might have been at Donington for the GT finale with the Team Barwell, with my brother as the corporate director there. Had a 1-2 in the Lamborghinis. They had a bit of an up and down season. So they weren't in with a shout to win the championship, but they had a really good finish the season with a 1-2. And it was the 2Cs Motorsport Mercedes of Charles Dawson and Kieran Jewis. He's a real talented kid, Kieran. He won the Porsche Super Cup a couple of years ago. So he's one of these kids trying to grow a career in GT racing because, he started single seat. He only did Formula 4, but so many young drivers are realising if they want to get paid to race, they've got to go GTs, which is where Jake Hill's heading in that direction from touring cars as well.
Another driver from the Caterham grid that I used to race against, Harry George. He was in the British GT as well, doing quite well.
Well, a bit more information than that. You just thrown that in without a position, car, team.
I didn't watch it.
GT3
I saw him in
GT4.
saw him in third place. Third place in his McLaren.
Or GT4.
GT3.
Okay, good. That's good.
Yeah.
Check that out later. British Superbikes. Either you're in the south of England or the Midlands. There was British action. The British Superbike, Oulton Park, classic Oulton Park weather where it rains and it stops, it's sunshine and it rains and it stops, there's wind. There was crazy weather all weekend for their 3 races. This is penultimate round. They've got 1 round to go, Brands Hatch finale, which we're really looking forward to, as we remember last year's amazing racing. There were 3 different winners. The first race was Josh Brooks, the old veteran. Oh, Aussie or Kiwi, Aussie or Kiwi, Aussie or Kiwi. I'll be in trouble. Antipodean, Josh Brooks, a champion many years ago, but he's well up in his age now. He chose intermediates, whereas all the front runners were on wet tires. He qualified 10th. He's still up there. Honda, not exactly the most popular bike in British Superbikes. Anyway, he came through on his intermediates to win, which he hadn't done for a long time. So great story for Josh Brooks. Bradley Ray's dropped away in the championship slightly. He was challenging Kyle Ryde, had a blitz for race 2, won it quite comfortably. And then Scott Redding won this final race of the day, which I watched live right at the end of Sunday, which was just, gone from Formula One boredom. This last round of the set was just epic racing. I mean, they were swapping, going through, diving. Scott Redding came through to win it. Really good race. Championship of Car Ride, he was a bit conservative because they were starting on slicks and then they were starting on wets, and they had a stoppages for rain, and had a stoppage for oil when a BMW blew up and covered. So it was a really tricky weekend for everyone. But Car had a third, a fourth, and a fifth. And he goes into the Brands Hatch finale with a 30-point lead over Bradley Ray, but there's 75 points on offer for 3 wins. So 30-point lead sounds a lot, but might not be. So we might have another classic finale.
Well, he was definitely just sandbagging some points, wasn't he?
Yeah,
he wasn't worried about getting first place.
Then Sunday evening, I of course enjoyed my NASCAR, which I still don't know if I've got any growing fans of ours listening to me to say go NASCAR. It was the last round of when they cut from 12 to 8 of the shootouts. It was a classic road course race where Shane van Gisbergen won the 5th road course race in a row. I mean, he must so piss off all the NASCAR regulars. He was on pole position, but it was a fabulous race. It was a really all the way through between him, Kyle Larson and Timothy Bell. And Larson and Bell are the two who both go midget racing midweek, even though they're racing a NASCAR. What are they, about 35 weekends a year racing NASCARs? They still go off and race in the Chili Bowl, and they slide around. But they really were on Van Gisbergen's case. And there was one moment, which was classic, where Shane was trying to overtake Larson, and he just outbraked himself slightly and gave Larson a nudge to get up the inside on the exit of the hairpin. So Kyle decided to give him a bit of the old Chili Bowl treatment from midgets and just banged him this way and that for about a couple of laps before he eventually let Van Gisbergen by, pretty much. Not that he had much choice. And but it was the interesting end, because Larson and Bell both pitted for fresh tyres with about 15 laps to go, whereas Shane stayed out. So there was the hope that the two on fresher tyres could catch him. The tyres, when you talk about tyres in Formula One to make more interesting racing, the tyres in NASCAR around the Charlotte Roval lasted about 15 laps. And then you were 4 seconds slower because you got no traction. These big, heavy cars, NASCARs, and not very scientific. So it was a real question, a lot of time strategy, but the front three put on a fantastic show. And at the same time, because of this shootout drama, not only was the battle at the front interesting, the battle for the 8th spot was fascinating, because it was between Joey Logano and Ross Chastain, the number one. Not number one, Ross, he's number one. But Ross made 2 mistakes speeding the pit lane. He got a couple of penalties. But towards the end, there's the cut line, right? So Logano was +2, while Chastain was -2. Then as soon as Chastain overtook one car, he was -1. And Logano's +1, and then Logano would overtake one more car and go back to +2. They're battling midfield. They're both in the middle of nowhere. But Logano chose to put on fresh tyres for the last 15 laps, so he was slowly overtaking one. Because I think he was -4 to Chastain's +4, but Chastain kept on dropping back one because he was struggling on his tyres. And it all came down to the last lap as to who would get through to the final 8. And Chastain had just lost too many. He knew he was out, but he was following Denny Hamlin to the last corner. Now, remember, Chastain is the man that did the wall of death round. Yeah. When he stayed full
of
throttle.
Course, yeah, full throttle, yeah.
And that was to get through into the knockout phase of a drama of almost the same round, of which round it was. So anyway, he just dives on. He just thinks, if I can get one more place in this last chicane, maybe that'll get me into the last 8. So he clattered Denny Hamlin sideways. They both exited the corner, having done a half spin, going backwards. And before the spin had even ended, Chastain was in reverse and then just slammed the throttle, reversed across the start-finish line. So first he used the wall as a banner, and this time he used reverse gear to cross the line to try and get, but he missed out. And he joined Tyler Reddick and Bubba Wallace and Austin Cindric as the people who'd gone out. Well, that's all exciting, all this knockout that you always hope some underdog will get through. We've actually ended up with 3 factory Chevrolets, 3 factory Toyotas, and 2 factory Fords of making up the last 8. So the cream has stayed on the top. Have gone through to the final 8.
Sounds like something out of that cartoon movie Cars or a Talladega Nights or something.
Well,
script,
it is. It was, I know. So
right, this Harry George thing. I was just looking at Donington Park on TSL. I think I can't see him anywhere. This is really weird. I was looking at October 2021.
Well, have you found it? Have you found it? You're still in the dark.
No, I've given up now. As soon as I saw that,
well done, Harry. Whether it's GT4 or GT3, keep it up. It's a career ahead of you.
Yeah, exactly.
So after all that going on last weekend, we've hardly got anything this weekend. I meant to look up the points, actually. I haven't. Should have done. The IMSA finale goes to Road America, so it'll be great racing to watch. Was it? It's the Petit Le Mans, isn't it? Oh, could it be Petit Le Mans?
This is why are you asking us, and the viewers and the listeners?
I suddenly realised I didn't do enough research.
Got one job.
I'm pretty sure it's Petit Le Mans, which isn't Road America. It's Atlanta.
Next week, I can tell you, I'm in Barcelona. So you've got the lovely Hamilton James joining you next week. So he'll add a little bit of a different point of view.
Go to IMSA TV on Sunday night. It's great racing around there. World Superbikes. I think they're still almost not. Razgatlia hasn't won the championship yet. They're Estoril, penultimate run. They've got 2 to go. The NASCAR boys go to Las Vegas to begin the 3 races that will cut it from 8 down to 4. The supercars, the Bathurst 1,000 kilometres if you're down under this weekend. Nothing
You're
going on
very
in Britain.
dismissive of me telling you the big news that we got Hamilton James joining you next week.
Well, I was going to sort of get close to that after because you sort of threw that in. Now I'll ask again. Hamilton.
Well, that's what we do, Tiff. That's what a podcast is. You speak a bit, I speak a bit. We sort of bounce off each other.
I hope he knows more about motorsport than you do. Who is this Hamilton James?
Well, that's not hard, is it? Let's be fair. He did go to BTCC this weekend.
Okay.
You're going to be doing videos with him.
Talking about that, David Addison, the commentator that commentates around the world, has asked to come on our podcast. So we have to arrange, So we have to arrange a time for him to come on because he's one of the best commentators as well in the world.
Let's get another commentator who will come on our podcast, who does his own podcast, Harry Benjamin as well. He'll come on, which is great. Yeah, let's do that. That'd be good. Better than listening to us all day. On that note, we'll see you next week. Well, I won't. He will. And Hamilton will join you as well. Cheers.